In the 41st millennium, there is only board gaming, and in the vast reaches of space, no one can hear you rolling combat dice. Welcome to the final frontier, brave heroes. I'm Ash, and this is Space Crusade, a game that I've already unboxed and given an overview of right here on the channel. So if you would like to check out one of the greatest space-themed games ever made, I'll link that video in the description below. But today we're going to be focusing on something a little bit different, a little bit adjacent to my Space Crusade experience. And that Space Crusade experience involves modifying it. That's right, making homebrew for Space Crusade. There are a few considerations that I want to make in doing this. One, I would really like to have new scenarios. I would love to write up a series of new adventures to supplement the mission book that comes with Space Crusade. I know that there are expansions, and that those expansions likely come with mission books of their own, and I have every intention of collecting those for this really cool game. But the layout of the mission book is completely inoffensive to me. It is something that I think I would be able to add on to, and in doing so, write a completely new campaign that would involve the second, third, and fourth elements of my homebrew experience. The second element being more genestealers. This game comes with a total of 3 genestealers, but if you play its sister game, Space Hulk, you'll notice that there are about a bajillion genestealers, or Space Marine, or just about any other Warhammer 40k inspired game, which thankfully, like HeroQuest, this game doesn't actually explicitly mention Warhammer in any way, shape, or form, and kind of exists as a hint writing on the wall type of property rather than a direct under the sphere of influence kind of game. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but you know what? It doesn't matter. Genestealers, I have, through a very fortuitous and productive trade that was mutually beneficial with awesome community member and viewer Bohemyus, acquired an assortment of Space Crusade miniatures, namely Genestealers. And by adding this myriad of Genestealers to my base game, I can create a game mode that is slightly more challenging, or at least more varied. If the base game comes with 3 Genestealers, we're upping that by another, there's 8 there in my hands, 8 more in this box, 16 Genestealers. And I will have to create the appropriate blip tokens to represent these new Genestealers, or acquire more blip tokens rather. It'd actually probably be a lot easier to just acquire the blip tokens. I don't know why I was even entertaining the notion of making my own, forget that. There's a little bit more to this story, and if we further examine the details of the second case that I opened, first, there was no first case for there to be a second case. The first case that I opened, we will see that there is an assortment of goblins. Goblins carrying machine guns. These grots are going to be differently armed than the grots that are, not grots in this universe, what are they? Gretchen. Than the Gretchen that currently exists with Space Crusade. Here are our current Gretchen, and here are the Gretchen that I will be adding. A little bit differently scaled, perhaps. Perhaps these are more like snotlings. This little thread, it is being very, very stubborn. I'll figure it out because I want to add them to the game as well. There are a total of 9 of them, and they are already based appropriately for addition into this game. For storage purposes, I'm going to add them to my Gretchen bag, and we'll move on to the next element. There are a few things that I'm going to have to purchase to make my homebrew dreams come true. And that's because of the final element, but before we get to that, I want to show you a few more miniatures that I was able to get in this awesome trade. Wait, that's Egrim. Some classic Warhammer fantasy goblins with bows. Whoops, these guys are made of metal. They're going to go in my Warhammer quest box, I believe. I've got a 5th one as well, but he fell off his base, so they're all going to have to get rebased, or he is at least. A couple of space orcs. These are large fellows. They're going to be tough boys. I'm going to need to figure out what makes them special, what makes them a little bit different than the other orcs, and how I can make them unique. In this case, they're kind of going to be like the orcs with notched sword from HeroQuest, in that they're going to have their own special stats when I call out their usage. I may have to script their placement rather than indicate whether or not they should be placed using a blip token with regular orcs, but if they are placed with regular orcs due to the decisions and discretion of the Lord of Chaos player, Lord of Chaos player, by the way, is one of the most awesome titles you could give to the antagonistic player, then it would just be a simple instruction of if the Lord of Chaos player wants to place these unique orcs, then they'll have these stats. And canonically, lore-wise, they'll be the commanders of whatever orc unit is in the Space Hulk that is being cleared out or searched. Before we get into the final and most important element, I wanted to show off this awesome Great Unclean One statue. He is very heavy, This was basically the crown piece of the trade. Well, this isn't what I necessarily went in to get, but definitely one of the cooler aspects, and I was amazed to do research on this fellow and find out that when he was released in basically a collection of pieces so that you could put together all of these different combinations and have your own great unclean one. It need not look exactly like this. You could have different bellies or different heads with different tongues or different arms. It was really, really cool how varied and unique and custom you could make your model with the great unclean one parts. Thought that was really, really cool, and it also made it hell to search up and try to find some information on it, because I thought, this is the model, this is what it looks like, and that's that. So when I saw different models that were also called great unclean ones, I thought, well, then that's not what this is. Moving on to the next search result. Imagine my surprise when I finally figured out the truth. The final and most important addition to all of this is I want to create a fourth faction for players to enjoy. In doing so, I'm going to need a fourth element for all of the things that faction is supposed to have, which includes a new commander scanner, new reference cards, new honor tokens, and most importantly, new miniatures. But the miniatures I've already got out of the way. Introducing the Adeptas Sororitas. I know with my camera set to the ultra-wide lens, it's not going to focus very well on what I have here in my hand, but these Battle Sisters were painted up, and these were what I was really after in all of this trade. More Genestealers, that's what I led with. That's what I really wanted to begin with. But when I saw the Battle Sisters, a notion began gnawing at me, and it was inescapable. What if the Battle Sisters could accompany the Space Marines to their various missions in Space Crusade? Is there any reason why this would not work? So we've got a few different miniatures here, a few different sculpts, and the sculpts with Space Crusade are a bit like the Men-at-Arms from HeroQuest. We can swap out the different equipment to detail what the chapters of Marines are bringing with them into their fight. Well, we could do the same thing here, but the miniatures don't have swappable weapons, so what we're going to end up doing is creating a team out of the 7 miniatures here rather than the typical 5 that come with your Space Marine chapter. Instead of interchanging weapons, we're just going to interchange the entire miniature. But if you have access to your own Battle Sisters miniatures and you are able to swap out their weapons in some kind of way, or otherwise would just like to keep track of what weapon each sister is supposed to have, that'll work just fine. So after I identify the roles and responsibilities of each of the sculpts with this unit, I will be able to outline how playing this faction is similar to playing the Space Marine factions. Now I do know that the Battle Sisters are not a faction of Space Marine. They are not Marines. They do not have the same responsibilities. They do not have the same context. But I also know that a battalion of the Sisters of Battle can go out with Marines and perform certain functions, not limited to exterminating heresy where it is suspected to be. And for that reason, this faction will be completely playable and compatible, especially with the otherwise vague rules and responsibilities of the Space Marines in Space Crusade. As Games Workshop says, everything is canon, so if you disagree with any point of this, you're wrong. I'm kidding. I would actually like to be as lore accurate and as lore friendly as possible so that people are encouraged to play the Sisters of Battle expansion / homebrew. But the long and short of it is they will be accompanying our heroes as more heroes to help exterminate the increased Genestealer threat. And I don't know, if I can get some more 40k Nurgle, then we might incorporate something Nurgle related. One thing I really love about Space Crusade and 40k in general is Chaos Marines. Chaos Marines, the concept is so cool, and it's so cool because any Marine can be in their faction today, in their chapter today. Any Marine could be an Ultramarine or a Space Wolf or an Imperial Fist today. But tomorrow, that Marine could be a Chaos Marine. Tomorrow, that Marine could be an insert name of the Khorne Space Marines here, or a insert name of the Nurgle Space Marines here, or a Slaanesh follower, or a Tzeentch follower. And that makes a lot of this surprisingly high stakes. So the only incongruencies here is that my Sisters of Battle and a lot of my other miniatures I've got here, the 2 orcs, well, I guess that's it. It's just the 2 orcs and the Sisters of Battle. They're made of metal while the rest is made of plastic. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be a hang-up for me. Probably won't be, though. I just need a way to safely sort and store my Genestealers in this box.
because I'm just now realizing that my new box should fit just fine in with all of my other components. No, yeah, it will. No, actually, it'll have a little bit of lift. Dang it. All right, well, I'll figure it out. I always do. You know, in the very near future, and not the 41st millennium, it's going to be pretty practical and, dare I say, maybe even kind of easy to create quests for games like this that aren't HeroQuest while using a platform that is currently used and beloved by people who are creating quests for HeroQuest to create quests for HeroQuest. Come on, I really don't want to have to remove all your arms. And I think these arms are glued in anyway. It's gonna be Ziploc baggies again, eh? For all of you? The only problem with that is opening the box one day and finding out that all my miniatures are there, but they now are missing their arms because the arms have broken off and they are in a different part of the bag. Anyway, I'm going to need to make new cards, which isn't going to be a big deal, I don't think. I can take the current templates here, not the Lord of Chaos deck, not the Alien Events deck. Here are the ones. I could just take the template here, basically, and put in a new color, which I think might be white. I don't know. What do you think it should be for the border? And then just take a picture of a battle sister and replace it with this, so the art won't be entirely, totally matched up with what's here. Or maybe it could be if I go back and I make sure to use older art. That is definitely going to be a fun and interesting project. If you have any tips or tricks on that side of things, do let me know. I do take advice occasionally. But that is it for now. That's all I have to reveal. That's all I have to nerd out about. I hope you enjoyed this little personal video of mine. And if you'd like to see more, I hope you subscribe, and I do hope you go watch another one of my videos. Comment anything you like down below, and be sure to check out the Patreon to see if being a patron to the channel has the benefits that you would like to be interested in. What am I even talking about? Until next time, brave heroes, have a fantastic rest of your day, and bye for now.